and welcome our fellow lovers of love. And thank you for joining us on this excursion, through the rough waters of, through the rapids of, well, what the heck is the saying anyway? It's through the river rapids of, no, something or another, lack of tranquility, and welcome to the lake of love. Thank you very much. Yeah. It's been that kind of a week. Just why not? We'll just completely butcher the beginning of this. Fits along with the rest of the week. We're coming to you live from the cell phone on the what the hell carport outside Castle de Love. You know, um,
Casa de Love.
old Lubby over there just did not want to be in front of the camera, so we have special guest Mr. Bear is here joining us tonight. As give you guys something more attractive to look at than me or just my hair. How long can y'all stand just to look at the hair? But
Not with the hair.
it's gonna be one of those days. It's just gonna be one of those days. And because the internet's down, that's been a fun experience. At the same time dealing with my health issues and the vision kind of slowly going away. Man, I've been on a roller coaster this week.
Well, you've maintained good spirits throughout. You've been doing, at least outwardly, you've been doing a good job.
That was going to be my thing. Yes, I've done a good job doing it outwardly, but it's turmoil. But internally, well, turmoil may be a little extreme, but it's not been fun. I'm emotional. I'm starting to get emotionally tired, I think is what it is. And then you just get things compounding. One thing starts to move, and then the healthcare stuff starts to finally get moving in a positive direction, albeit slowly. Yeah, but it starts moving in a positive direction. These test results came back. They're still progressing in the right direction, slowly. So everything in that area is going, and then the internet goes out, and it's probably not the greatest time for me to be locked in my head.
Yeah.
And then I have to sit in this. I'm gonna see if I can manage this one. I've got this kind of strange duality that many of us, not just me, many of us are living these days. Is my injuries are because of a medical treatment that is now common. Everybody's is or isn't doing it these days. Y'all can understand what I'm talking about. And yet recently today, one of my best friends from childhood's funeral was today. I didn't have a driver. I wasn't feeling that good, so I couldn't go. He passed away from COVID. So, I actually have this duality this week where you've got this, my health issues from the treatment for that, and yet, a childhood friend passed away because, I don't know his status as to whether it was pre-treated or not or any of that. It's none of my business. It's not relevant to the fact that you've lost a childhood friend, and so you've got all this sitting on you, but not just me, it's everybody else. I'm not the only one. How many people's lives have been uprooted and lost loved ones while they're dealing with their own health issues one way or another? And we've all lost empathy with each other. We all want the world to be simple. We want silver bullet solutions, and we don't want to look at anything that makes it complicated because it's hard and painful. So what are we going to do? And I don't mind sitting here coming on to here and telling people that, it's been a struggle because, the hope is that if people see that, you can struggle and you can struggle publicly, then they can struggle privately and still come out the other side. And I was thinking today, one of the things that actually helps get me through this is knowing that there's people who struggle with and get through situations much more difficult than mine with much less love and support than I do. And it's not to minimize my struggle or what I'm going through. It's that somebody else has done more. I can do this. I get strength from their strength. I'm not minimizing what I'm going through. I'm pulling strength from them. And you hope that maybe you can do that for somebody else. So, if memory serves on that list, we had two items of philosophy down there. Let's hit one for this first half.
No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world.
Well, I think we were just discussing, really, that you never know. You never know. You might be the voice in the night that saves somebody from going down a dark path. And 10 years later, they can change the world somehow. They may not have forgotten about that night. But it doesn't matter. You can change the world. You don't know. That's why we talk about putting positive ripples out into the universe. Be as positive as possible. Even while you're struggling, even during your struggles. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. No one expects perfection. Everybody has their bad days and isn't the person they want to be, but that you strive to be the person you want to be is the point. And if you do that, and we all try to do that, everybody's life becomes a little better. Back when we worked in assembly line, there was a saying we used to have: do one little thing to make the next guy's job easier. Find one little thing about your jobs that can make the next guy's job easier. And if everybody does that, everybody's job is a little easier. It's amazing how that works. Even if it's just, hey, I'm going to be a little neater in how I stack this stuff. Well, that makes the next guy's job easier. And so there's lots of ways to put something positive into the world. You don't never know. Maybe that guy needed that day to be easier that day. Maybe he was training for a new position and he needs as much help from those people surrounding him as possible. And that culture is helpful in doing that. And that doesn't apply to just work life. It applies to our daily lives and how we interact with each other. And I know we don't talk politics here, but it should apply to our political life. But for whatever reason, we don't apply that. And it's a sad thing. Okay, so we got a laundry list of things to talk about. And we have no idea how long, if this show's going to go an hour tonight or not. So it's just going to go how long it goes. Or to an hour. Because I don't think Lubby's up for going late tonight. All right, so what do we got?
Is 17 years old a good age to get a phone? My daughter is 17 and she keeps asking for one, but I don't know if she's old enough.
Well, in the modern world, 17 is older than enough to have a phone. You can't really navigate modern life without a phone. Now, you don't need the latest and greatest phone. You need something that can work relatively well in the modern world. You don't need to get them the great thing. Just get them one that works. And it's plenty old enough. Because in a year, they're going to be on their own. They need practice. I say this forever. Childhood is for practice. You have to give them opportunities to practice the tools and skills that they need in adulthood. And they can't do that if you don't let them. They're going to go into the modern world where everybody else is comfortable using these devices. You're going to be behind. You're not actually, at this stage, you're not doing any favors. Wanting to teach them how to do it properly, how to put limits on things, great. We all have our own ways of doing that. I'm not going to judge. But you have to prepare them for the modern world. And at 18, they're on the modern world next year. And if you haven't prepared them, that's on you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm 18. I live with my parents. Can they really ground me from my car just because I don't have a job?
Well, okay, first we got to have a couple things. One, is this actually your car? I mean, did you actually at some point buy it with your own money? Or was it actually a genuine gift? Or are they letting you use their car? Those are two different things. If it's actually your car in your name, it was a gift or you purchased it yourself, no, they can't ground you from your car, but they can decide to not let you use their car. You're perfectly within their rights. Whether I would do it or not is not relevant. The attitude
How's
of
he
that.
gonna go for job interviews and go looking for jobs?
Well, there's other ways. These things don't happen for no reason. I mean, unless you have really strict parents. But at some point, you were given a car, access to a car. You've done something to lose access. That would be my guess. There's something behind this story we're not hearing. And I would assume, having raised 5 kids and been part of raising another couple, it's, it's these things don't happen for no reason. Yeah, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You know, there's some additional math to this equation that we're not hearing. But again, if it's your car, then no, they can't. No, they don't have to give you gas money. They don't have to pay for your insurance. They don't have to do any of that other stuff. But they can't ground you from your car. You're an adult, and it's your car. But everything else is what it is. But my guess is, yeah, go fix the rest of the equation, and you can fix that problem. And you may have to work at a crappy dishwashing job or fast food job for 6 months. We all did. I don't know anybody that, unless they went right straight to college, didn't. And even most of the people in college ended up working in the cafeteria or something for at least half a semester.
Really?
Yeah, because they got behind on bills and they had to do something. Yeah, almost universal. Having to work in a kitchen at some point is almost universal. It's one of the almost universal things. That's why everybody hates it.
Okay, my son is 14 and shares a room with his 3 brothers, 12, 10, and 9. We have a treehouse lately. He has been getting a sleeping bag and sleeping in there. Should I let him?
Well, when the weather's nice, sure. I mean, assuming all things are created equal here, assuming you've got no other reasons to be concerned, and the weather's nice, sure, let him do it. But all he really wants is some peace and quiet and privacy. That's all he really wants, and that's how he's going to get it. That's it. Can you imagine a room that quiet? I raised 3 boys in one room. It's not fun for anybody. And so the fact that he wants some space is
Perfectly normal.
perfectly
Yeah,
normal response.
yeah.
Now, maybe let him sleep on the couch. So hey, if you need some space, go ahead and go sleep on the couch or something like that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If you're actually concerned about safety, that kind of thing. But it's perfectly normal, and maybe it's time to, if you have an option. I get it, times are tough and there may not be room and all that kind of thing. But if there's time to think about different options, it may be time to think about different options, splitting them up into twos, the olders and the younger, if you can, or letting someone sleep on the couch if that's what they want to do. If that's what they want to do, because nice weather, it's one thing. You can't sleep in the treehouse in winter. Well, unless you're in like Palm Springs or San Diego or someplace. But for most people, you can't sleep outside in the wintertime. And, it's not necessarily a safe option depending upon the neighborhood you live in. So, but it's time to think about other options if you can find them. So he's telling you, you're just not saying it.
I'm 19. I had a fight with my parents. They want me out and are willing to pay me $20,000 to leave. They won't let me have my car. They want me to start from basically zero. I want to go to a tech college. What's the first thing to do?
Okay, well, one, they're not wanting you to start from zero. They're wanting you to start with $20,000. That's not zero.
No.
No, it's their car, and that's fine. It's not your car. That's clearly their car. If it was your car, it'd be your car. It'd be in your name. It's not in your name. It's the car they have been allowing you to use. Now, what you guys did, what you all were fighting about, and whether it's a, reasonable time to, hey, it's time to move on sometimes as parents, right? As parents and children, it's time to get out the house. And they're actually helping you. They're willing to pay you give you 20 grand to move. That's first, last 6 months rent. You can pay 6 months rent somewhere with 20 grand, buy yourself a cheap beater car and go get yourself a job. What more do you want? They are being as generous as any parent actually could possibly be while still telling you to get the heck out. It's one of these things is you need to be appreciative of what they're actually giving you. It's not zero. If you're actually very careful, you could live a year off of that 20 grand without even having to work if you're careful. Got roommates and that kind of thing. 6 months easy. It's not zero. And tech colleges are scams. Go to an online school. Western Governors University, someplace like that. FAFSA will cover most of your expenses, and work a part-time job. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, that's a very good start. 20,000, good heavens.
Yeah, most of us would have. I started with a car and sleeping in the back seat of a Volkswagen 1969 Volkswagen Bug. So
My mother had zilch to offer. I had to join the army to get the heck out of Dodge.
and I want to be clear. We are blessed by a family that blesses, and so we get to count our blessings every night.
Absolutely.
And so count your blessings of what they're giving you. Because it's not zero. That's what you need to. That's the frame you need to rechange. It's not zero. They are actually giving you a hell of a head start. Say thank you. Sorry we fought. We'll work this out over time. That's what I would do. And you will. You'll work it out over time. Okay.
My fiance said it isn't cruel to kick one's child out of the house on their 18th birthday for no other reason than they are now an adult and they have to be reliant on themselves. Is this true?
Well, A, if you haven't prepared them for it, it's definitely cruel. Now, if you have prepared them for it, whether it's cruel or not is open to interpretation, perspective. I personally, in the modern world, it is, but it's for most of human history, you reach the age of adulthood, whatever that age was, 12, 13, 18. That's what happened as an adult male. Especially as a male, once you hit adulthood, you were out. And it's just, you were expected to take care of yourself. Of course, this was at a time when you actually could go find a patch of land, stake your claim, and scratch out an existence. You can't do that anymore, especially in major cities in the United States. Sending an 18-year-old out on their own with no resources, you haven't prepared them properly. I couldn't do it. Whether it's cruel or not, but I couldn't do it. Personally, I find it a bit excessive. You don't stop raising your child at their 18th birthday.
They don't stop being your child, yeah.
Yeah. You don't stop being responsible for them. You may be legally no longer responsible for them, but morally and ethically and all those areas issues that come into play. I was hoping we didn't get any life flight helicopters tonight. It's always a sad thing when I have to hear these things. Either the life flight or the police one. In our neighborhood, it could be either. It doesn't sound like either one. We're sorry. We hear helicopters all the time around here. It's not an uncommon occurrence, and so that helicopter it's
It
quieter.
doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it's quieter than most life flight helicopters. Doesn't have the wop wop that the police Huey has, and maybe it's a that's too low for a TV helicopter. Maybe it's an out of town life flight coming in from out of
Yeah,
town.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so we're at
Is it time for a new one?
I don't know what was the last one.
Was it cruel to
Yes,
kick your? Yeah,
if it's not cruel, it's unethical.
It's unethical. Okay, as a parent, what would you do if your teenager said, "People only leftovers for dinner when they're poor"?
To be eating leftovers for three for what 2 out of 3 meals. They'd learn a lesson. I mean, but if your child says that to you, you have to actually understand you've done something wrong. They got that attitude from you, or from the people. You know, you didn't correct the attitude that their surroundings was giving them. So you have to understand. Children are raised, and you have to accept responsibility before you can for yourself before you can force them to accept the responsibility for that kind of backward thinking. Leftovers simply mean you made too much. Sometimes some things like lasagna, you're better off making too much because a lot of people like it more remade. My whole family loves lasagna the next day. They like it the next day. They don't prefer it the next. So they like it reheated. Do you want it the leftover? French fries leftover, not so much. It's just the quality is different, and so there's some of that. It's that something, but this notion that you would even say that as a general rule, you've done something wrong. You need to figure out what messages you're teaching your children accidentally. Or what messages society is teaching your children that you aren't correcting properly is the other way to look at that. You might be teaching the right messages, but they're learning something somewhere else and you're not actively correcting that. I had to actively work. We live on the edge of the ghetto. I had to actively work to correct the influences my boys were raised around. You can't just let these things go by themselves. Now, you can do it with a light touch, but you do have to actively parent. Okay, what's next? Oh, we're on the last page. We want to go back. How much time are we into?
About 2 pages.
How much time are we in?
We're at 9:22.
It's only been 9 minutes.
It's 9:23. It's 9:23. It's been 23 minutes.
No, we actually started a few minutes early. I thought you said 9:20. What? That's only been 9 minutes. What the hell is that? I know it seemed quicker than that. It seemed like I didn't. I know it seemed quicker, but I'm pretty good about time. I'm an experienced TV host now. I don't know, podcast host, director. I understand how time works. 9 minutes? What the hell? I really am disconnected from the world. Disconnect my internet, and I come off with discombobulated. But speaking of discombobulated, we're going to create our break right here. And we are back. No, we're not going to actually take a break. We're just going to roll right through there, Lubby, because I have no way to turn off the microphones easily. Unless you want to find the mute button while you go.
No. We'll just roll on through.
All right, so welcome back for us. We want to remind you that you can find us at Anchor No. All right, let's see if I can do this. We'll restart. Thank you for coming back and joining us for the second half of this. You can always find us at latenightLove.us, Facebook.com/TheLateNightLove. You can find us at Late Night Love on all the other social media platforms. And you can find me at JazzRack on Twitter. And you can send Lubby over there an email at love@latenightLove.us. I wonder if I should change that to Lubby. I wonder if we should change that to Lubby.
Yeah.
I can. I control the email server. I can do whatever I want.
You could.
I should do that. I should just personalize it a little bit. So we had some philosophy comment there at the.
When you do something beautiful and nobody noticed, do not be sad. For the sun every morning is a beautiful spectacle, and yet most of the audience still sleep.
Well, yes, because beauty is when you do something beautiful or loving, kind, compassionate, whatever euphemism you want to put on there. You don't do it for recognition. You do it because it makes you, it fulfills the person you want to become, you want to be. Now, there are some people who have a need, a desire for public affirmation. Generally, they feed off of it. But for most of us, all we really want to do is satisfy our own selves. We want to see ourselves being the person we want ourselves to be. And it is such a hard thing because we put ourselves up. We have this weird thing where we put ourselves up on this pedestal that's literally impossible to reach because no matter how good we make ourselves, if you're a good human being, you will always find some way to want to be better. And then we judge ourselves because we don't, harshly, because we don't get to this.
To the idea.
To this
Yeah,
ideal that we've
yeah.
created for ourselves. And we do it to ourselves. But in a strange thing, it's also what drives us to become better people. If you don't do that, you never have anything to chase for. It's a sense like, the old saying is you have the fishing pole on taped to your back, so you have the bait dangling in front of you, and you keep running and trying to chase it, but you can never catch it. But you're always moving forward. So there is a beauty in that, and so trying to do something beautiful, making something beautiful, being a beautiful human being for its own sake is its own reward. And will other people notice it? Eventually. They may not notice that exact thing, but they'll notice the great composite that is your life, the beautiful thing that you have created of yourself. And that's the real goal. Okay.
Okay, I smashed the job interview, but a candidate that did worse than me got the job and I didn't. How do I convince them they made the wrong choice?
Well, how do you know you smashed the interview? You don't know what they were looking for. You think you smashed the interview. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you are a completely wrong cultural fit. Maybe you're not what they're looking for. Maybe your version of smashing an interview is actually tanking an interview. You don't, that's the problem. You don't actually know what somebody else is looking for in that interview. But here's the thing I always tell people. Why do you want to work for some place that didn't want you to work there? It's their loss. Move on, find something better. But my guess is you probably didn't smash the interview as well as you think you did. It's one of those things you've told yourself something that isn't exactly true. But there's also another thing. That other person could simply be more qualified. That's what they say. You can hear the walk walk. But it's the other person could have simply been more qualified. And the interviewers, all he had to do was not screw it up. Maybe your resume, you had to smash it, but he didn't have to. His resume spoke for him. His accomplishments spoke for him. And here's a little hint about interviews. Ever know what they're actually looking for? Just be yourself, because that's why you just be yourself and be as honest as you can answer questions, because you don't know what they're looking for. And what you actually want to do is be with people who want you, not some painted false version of you. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. But go on YouTube, look at a YouTube channel. I think it's Life After Layoff. I think is the name of the YouTube channel I watch for people who give tips about interviewing, and he's a headhunter. So, and he gives advice about tips and tricks and what to look for, which companies don't want to look for. You don't want to look for. It tells you the things in an interview to red flags. Those kind of things. So, expand your horizon of what you think a good interview is. All right, move on. Sorry.
Should you stop to help someone that's having car problems?
Well, that's not a simple question. One, you have to be able to. You have to be competent enough to actually be able to help. And in the modern world, if all you can do is offer a cell phone, you probably have one. So, and then if you're a young single woman, it's probably not a good idea type of thing. If you, but back in the old days when I was young, stopping to help someone who had a broken down car was something you did if you had tools with you and had knowledge, because getting stranded on the road, there was no cell phones. It was actually more dangerous to leave someone stranded than it was to stop and help. But nowadays, with cell phones, and it's so easy to connect with other people, it's less of a moral imperative to help the traveler on the road. It used to be a big thing because someone could be stranded. Remember, I was stranded in the middle of nowhere with my car broken down.
Imagine if that was awful.
Yeah, and I had just had bad cell phone reception. Matter if I had none. Matter if cell phones didn't exist.
It'd still be out there.
It would not. It would have just been a long walk to the next phone. It would have been a couple hours. It wouldn't have been the end of the world, but still, you're stuck out in it's a whole different world now than it used to be. So, no, you don't have to. And if you don't have any skills, and the modern cars are all computers, there's not much you can actually do other than offer a phone or offer to sit with someone, make sure they're safe while the tow truck or someone gets there, or the Uber comes to pick them up, or whatever it is. That's really all you can do. I suppose if they're out of gas, you can take them to a gas station, but who carries gas cans around with them anymore? There's just not much you can do. Okay.
My 18-year-old son is threatening to break his Android smartphone unless I buy him a new bike. What should I do? Should I listen to him and buy him a new one?
You should laugh. I think Lubby there answered the question. It's good for you. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But my question is, the reason he's trying that is because at some point you've taught him that kind of thing will work. He's not going to threaten to break his stuff to get you to buy him something else unless it has worked at some point in the past. So no, you shouldn't buy him the bicycle. That'd be ridiculous. You have to break this habit now. Said, well, if you break your cell phone, you're not getting another one of those either, so you're going to have to make a choice. What do you want? Do you want a cell phone or no bike? You want a cell phone and no bike? Or do you want no cell phone and no bike? And he thinks he can make, and here's the other side. The children think they can make your life hell. But you have to remember, this is one of my children. So I give you a great big sandbox to play in. Don't cross out of it because the wrath of God will come down. And they almost never crossed out of that.
That's the way I explained it to my girls too. You got a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
But you step out of line and I was very clear about where the boundaries were. That's the other thing. You have to make clear where the boundaries are.
Well, I was a little less clear where the boundaries are, but that's because I have boys in the ghetto, and so it's they kind of knew where the boundaries were, because I was also a big believer in natural consequences. So, like when Michael jumped off the roof, I didn't get mad at him. He eventually smashed himself in the face with his knee and stopped. If his leg had been a couple more inches to the left, right, anyway, whichever way, smashed his nose, he'd have smashed his nose. But he got lucky, just smashed himself in the forehead with his knee. And he stopped jumping off the roof then. I didn't get. Why did I have to get mad? Nature already punished him. Well, there's nothing I can do that's going to be worse than that. So there are things. Pick your battles, but that's a battle to pick. Yeah, and at some point you've taught him a bad lesson. You're going to have to teach him, and it's going to suck. So I feel bad for you, but it is what it is. Parenting isn't always fun. A lot of times you're fixing mistakes you've made. Yeah. Get used to it. It's going to happen more. Trust me, it's just going to keep happening. Children are children. Okay.
What reason should I give in an interview for leaving a 4-month-old job?
Well, you give as honest of an answer as possible without bad-mouthing the previous company. Now, you don't have to tell them you worked anywhere. If you've already told them, I suppose that is. But if you had a job where you were just a crappy employee and they fired you after 4 months, you don't have to put that on your resume. No one ever has to know you worked there. People, you can just leave that off. They ask for your work history. You get to tell them your work history. You don't have to tell them the crappy work history. You could just put the good ones down. And then you have to explain a gap, but that's easier. That's easy to explain. Those are easy things to come up with. I was struggling to find work. I had narrowed my work search too narrowly, and I was looking for work in a specific field. I've now decided to branch out. It was a bad strategy. Yeah, it's bullshit, but but now I don't like lying, but you don't have to tell the or you can actually say I tried many different opportunities. None of them were actually long enough worth mentioning because we just didn't fit. There's all kinds of ways you can explain that. There's a cultural didn't fit, or cultures didn't fit is a good one. Yeah. So I didn't fit with the culture. It wasn't a match, cultural match. That kind of thing.
Okay. If your parents raise you without caring about what you do, co-parents, is this how you plan to raise your own children?
Well, your parents didn't raise you without caring what you did. They let nature teach you the lessons. Those are different. And you had proven them that you could handle responsibility. There's two sides to that coin. It's not that they let you do whatever they wanted to do. You had one, proven you can handle responsibility, and two, they're parents who allowed nature to teach the lesson. There's no you're a child. You have to practice. You can't practice if your parents are hovering over you all the damn time. It's just a parenting style. And most of us, what we try to do is we look at the way our parents raised us and we try to take out the worst things. And then we make our own huge mistake.
Yes, indeed.
We just try to do not the worst things that they do. We end up making our own worst things that our children try not to do, and it's this big thing because let's face it, none of us are Mary Poppins. None of us. So
Why do people say mother-in-law instead of just mother?
but because they're not their mother.
That's exactly right. Shame on mama.
Yeah, I suppose there are some that are probably really close and develop their relationships and they kind of drop the in-laws type thing, in casual conversation. But, maybe they call them mom, but they're going to refer to them to their friend as my mother-in-law. It's just because it's
because you identify who that person is.
Yeah. Now you may have a close enough relationship where you call them mom or mother or whatever it is. I've heard that, but that's not necessarily common, nor should it be ever required. That's a relationship that evolves and develops. And you ever try to force that kind of thing, you're going to ruin it. So if you actually want that kind of tight relationship with your in-laws, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a tight relationship with your in-laws, but you can't expect it. It's going to have to evolve and develop naturally. It's the only way it's going to happen. You try to force these things, and you ruin it. So.
Okay, I received a dozen HDDs when I ordered one through Amazon. A month later, the seller contacted me and demanded to return the HDDs back. Do I have to return them?
Well, morally and ethically, if he's paying for the shipping, yes, you return them. You shouldn't have to pay for shipping. It was his mistake. But yeah, you didn't buy those. Now, a lot of times, if it had been one, it's more expensive for them to pay to ship it back than the hard drive is worth. They're going to ignore it. But for 12, yeah, you should do so. Sure, give me a shipping label, and I'm happy to send them back to you. Why would you want to keep something that was clearly a mistake? Why didn't you contact the seller and say, hey, you accidentally sent me a dozen instead of one? Your shipping clerk made a big mistake. Why would you try to fix it? The problem isn't the seller. The problem is you. You want something for nothing. Now, you shouldn't have to pay. Don't get me wrong. You shouldn't have to pay to send these things back. It wasn't your mistake. So he shouldn't, if he's asking you to pay for it, perfectly reasonable to tell him to bite you. but if he's going to willing to send you a UPS label or pay for the shipping, then ship them back to him. Quit being a dick. Okay.
Okay, now we're getting into the mental health. We have 3 mental health questions. We're at 9:43. I misunderstood. I didn't set a timer.
That's all right. We'll end early. We don't have to go. And we only got 17 minutes. Yeah, we'll end a few minutes early tonight. That's
okay.
Good.
All right.
These are for you.
Can you hide your hypomanic episodes from others?
I want to get. I got these from a bipolar newsletter.
I cannot hide I couldn't. I'm on good medication now. I don't have the highs like I used to, and I was never very good at hiding them. I was giddy. It's kind of hard to hide giddy.
Well, my guess is what if people never saw the other side?
What other side?
The depressed side. If the only time people got, because the only time you got out was you were in your manic, and so the only time certain people saw you was when you were giddy, it'd be easy to hide it from them, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Or even if they saw you kind of neutral to giddy, and they never really saw, lots of people get giddy and neutral. It's nothing unusual. It's anybody who has to see the full spectrum of you can't hide it from. You can't hide it from someone who lives with you every day.
Right.
You might be able to hide it from, the secretary at the school or something. But, your best friend, teacher, probably not. Probably not.
No.
And here's the thing, you don't want to.
I was gonna say.
You want to get to the point where you don't have to. Especially around the people you love and the people who love you. You don't have this need to hide it is, actually causing part of your damage. It's actually creating a thought patterns ingrained into your head that you don't want there. You have to live with this the rest of your life at some level. Even after you have good meds, you still have to. It doesn't go away.
No, it's still there.
Yeah, and so you're gonna have to come to terms with it, and stop feeling the need to hide it. And hey, if you enjoy the giddy times, enjoy the giddy times, and enjoy the highs. But understand that they're not real, and understand that they have their cost at the other side.
Uh-huh.
And once you start understanding all that, then you actually can start making progress onto them not controlling your life. I think is ultimately where you want to get to, right?
Yeah.
And not as someone who doesn't deal with bipolar, I deal with anxiety. They have parallels, but they are not the same thing. I can sit there. Some of the generic advice is actually quite similar, but it's the generic advice. How it actually manifests, how you actually deal with it on an individual basis is vastly different, or can be vastly individualized, I should actually say. Okay, what's next?
How do I get my moods under control? I'm taking meds, but they don't seem to be working. Okay, number one, it takes a long time for them to work. And I would talk to your doctor. Sometimes you need an additional. I take 2 meds, psych meds. I don't do well with just one or the other. I need 2. So I would definitely talk to your doctor about that. And always, of course, counseling that would help give an eye towards management techniques.
Yeah, well, what I can say is having had gone through numerous medication changes is that getting the right medication and understanding how much of it to take takes a long time. It can take a year and a half.
It takes a year.
And if you get the wrong one, it extends out. If you can go 6 months in and say, well, this one's not working, we have to try something else, which means you have to get off of that slowly and then get on the next one slowly. And then, so, it can be a long time, but it's life changing once you get it right.
It sure is. It sure is.
And so what we can tell you is to just keep trying. I know it's hard and I know it's easy to say, but you just have to keep trying because ultimately it is worth it. It just is. I've watched it. I haven't got to, thankfully my experience is different, but I've seen it. I've watched it, and I've helped my lubby during that time. And so,
yes.
Patience and perseverance. 2 things I guess I'm good at patience. I'm not very great at perseverance with healthcare issues. Patience I've got. Perseverance when it comes to healthcare thing, I'm not so good at. So, I'm glass house throwing stones, but just do the best you can. All you can do is the best you can. You can't do more than that, by definition.
Okay, last question. Do people with bipolar disorder tend to enjoy their manic phases as a respite from their severe depression? Or are both phases generally seen as undesirable? Well, that's exactly right. It is a respite. And I miss my manics, I have to admit, but I'm not willing to pay the price. Because how high up you go is how far down you're gonna go. It's a hell of a price, and I'm not willing to do it anymore.
Yeah, if your manic is a 7, your depression episode either previously or afterwards is going to be a 7. and that's a 14-point swing. And think of that as a Richter scale. It's like having an earthquake, the 14. You don't want to do that. You want to keep these things between the ditches. You're going to end up in ditches, right? You're going to end up swings. Even on medication, you end up, but if you can keep them, say, between the 3s, it's a hell of a lot better than between the 7s or potentially getting to the 10s or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so they never completely go away. But if you can stay on the road, so to speak, that's the goal. Maybe you weave in a little bit, but you can stay on the road. Stop hitting things. That's kind of the goal. The goal isn't to be, if your goal is to get it straight and perfect, it's not going to happen. Reset your expectations. Because, you're always going to be disappointed. Your goal is to stay on the road. Keep it manageable. And, kind of, I suppose the whole theme of this show is to stay on the road and keep it manageable. From the very beginning of the show where everything is going wrong, has been a heck of a week where everything's crashing. Everything is having to face, stark dualities of existence. And how do you stay on the road when you're being pushed by two extremes? Well, the road's the only safe place to be. You don't want to get off the road. You don't want to get off to one extreme or one or the other. You end up off the cliff or in a ditch or to a tree. You want to find out ways to stay on your proverbial path. Stay on your proverbial road. It's a lot safer. And that's it for me and Lubby. We want to let you know we have thank you for joining us tonight. You can find us at latenightLove.us. So don't expect anything to get updated much until we get internet back up. So we'll get the podcast up, but beyond that, and the Facebook page will get updated. But beyond that, I can't do much. So with love, please remember to love everybody. And please remember to love everybody. With love, from me and Lubby. Good night.
Good night.
Having trouble over there?
Yeah.
Okay, almost good night. Yeah, I have to take that cover off when I do that because the cover makes it hard to hit that button. All right, I'll get it. It'll just be weird. I'll cut it off. Oh, and broadcast.